What happens when ambition destroys everything you once stood for? The Industry Season 4 finale just dropped the most devastating character transformations I've ever seen on television. One person made a deal with the devil, another lost everything despite doing the right thing, and someone we thought was gone might still be lurking in the shadows. If you think you know how this story ends, think again. Stay with me because what I'm about to reveal will completely change how you see these characters. The finale of Industry Season 4 is finally here, and I have to say, this might be one of the most emotionally brutal endings to a season I've witnessed in a long time. After watching Tender's empire crumble in the previous episode, this final chapter wasn't about revenge or redemption. It was about choices, consequences, and how far people are willing to go when everything they built comes crashing down. We watched characters make decisions that will haunt them forever. Some chose power over principles, others chose safety over truth, and one person, well, they might have found something worth fighting for after all. This episode brilliantly explored the aftermath of corporate destruction and showed us that sometimes winning comes at a price too high to pay. So let's break down this incredible finale, dissect every major character arc, analyze that blink and you'll miss it moment before the credits, and figure out what this all means for Season 5. Trust me, you'll want to hear every detail of this breakdown. Let's start with the character who arguably had the most shocking transformation this season, Yasmin. And honestly, this finale felt like it was entirely her story, showing us how far someone can fall when they taste power for the first time. Remember the Yasmin from earlier seasons? The one who had some moral compass, who cared about doing the right thing? That version of her is completely gone now. What we saw in this finale was someone who's transformed into everything she once despised. The aftermath of Tender didn't just affect her professionally, it fundamentally changed who she is as a person, and not for the better. Here's what really struck me. With the rise of far-right politics in the UK and the Labour Party drowning in scandal after its association with Tender, Stefan saw an opportunity, and Yasmin? She jumped at the chance to help him polish his image in the political landscape. But this wasn't about believing in a cause or fighting for something meaningful. This was pure, calculated ambition. The Paris dinner scene absolutely revealed everything we needed to know about who Yasmin has become. Remember in the previous episode when Harper and Yasmin promised they'd always protect each other? That they'd look out for one another no matter what? Well, that promise was shattered in the most brutal way possible. Yasmin didn't invite Harper to Paris because she cared about her. She invited her to use her as a donor for Stefan's political campaign. She deliberately seated Harper between two far-right extremists, including Moritz and his mother. And when that woman made an outright racist comment to Harper, asking her if she was like the others, that's when Harper finally realized the truth. Yasmin wasn't her friend anymore. She'd become an extended version of the worst parts of powerful, manipulative people, absorbing all the negative tactics that allow people to stay on top, regardless of the human cost. But it gets darker. We also saw Yasmin with those girls she hired for Stefan's dinner party. This was straight out of the exploitation playbook, hiring escorts to keep powerful men happy, no matter who they were or what their background was. She called herself a provider of opportunities, but let's call it what it really is: exploitation. And here's the most disturbing part. She planned to film these intimate moments to have leverage over these people in the future. That's not business strategy, that's blackmail. Why this drastic change? I think it comes down to how Yasmin always felt during her time at Tender and in her marriage to Henry. She was constantly made to feel inferior, overlooked, and undermined. So now, having emerged from all of that, she's experiencing a complete mindset shift. She finally sees a path where she can gain power and respect, where she won't be the person everyone talks over or ignores. As she said herself in the episode, she now feels important, necessary, and new. These were all things she never felt in her marriage to Henry. She never felt like she mattered to him, never felt necessary in his life, and that emptiness drove her to this dark place. The symbolism in this episode was absolutely brilliant. There's a moment where a song plays with the lyrics, "Get thee behind me, Satan," and right as it says Satan, the camera cuts to Stefan. Combined with the type of people sitting at his dinner table, it's crystal clear. Yasmin has literally made a deal with the devil. She's aligned herself with extremism, manipulation, and moral bankruptcy, all for a taste of power and influence. The most heartbreaking moment is when Yasmin's alone, listening to the voicemail her father left her before he died. This showed there's still some piece of the old Yasmin buried deep inside, mourning not just her father, but who she used to be. She's drifted so far from her original beliefs and values, and she knows it, but she's not turning back. And that scene with the young woman and Eric surrounded by all those older men, if Yasmin is prepared to allow that to happen, to put that girl in that position, then we've truly lost her. Season 5 is going to be incredibly dark if this is the path she's chosen. Now, let's talk about Henry, because his storyline in this finale absolutely broke my heart. After the exposé on Tender was released, Henry's world completely fell apart, and then Yasmin told him she wanted a divorce, which was the final nail in the coffin. The scene where Henry asked Yasmin, "Did you ever love me?" after she said she didn't love him anymore, was devastating. It revealed something crucial about their relationship. Henry's insecurities and constant need for validation were what ultimately destroyed them. He was always questioning her love, always seeking reassurance, and by never just trusting in it and believing it was real, he caused that flame to burn out completely. Yasmin simply couldn't handle being with someone who needed that constant affirmation anymore. But here's where things get really interesting and dangerous. Henry received intel from Jen that Tender might actually be a front and proxy for Russian intelligence. We're talking about data mining, money laundering for covert operations, and strategically placing people inside various industries. This was massive information, the kind that could blow the entire scandal wide open and expose the real puppet masters behind Tender. Henry was tempted to go public with this information to expose everything Tender truly was. But after he finally showed some self-respect by leaving a certain powerful person on that plane, refusing to be just another disposable asset and blame piece, Henry received a chilling warning. Lord Mustin told him that pursuing this story, trying to expose Tender's Russian connections, could result in Henry getting killed and it being made to look like an accident. Mustin even mentioned knowing someone with similar mental health struggles to Henry who met exactly that fate. So at the press conference, after Henry pled guilty, there was this incredible moment of tension. The camera lingered on his face, and you could see him processing everything, deciding in real time whether he was going to drop the bombshell and expose everything he knew. But ultimately, he played it safe. He simply stated that a certain powerful person was the only one responsible, that it started and ended with them. Henry chose safety over truth, and you know what? I don't blame him. He made the smart choice for his own survival. But the question is survival enough when the quality of that survival is so empty? The final shot of Henry in this episode is deeply troubling. He's sitting on a boat, fishing with his uncle, back on the estate. And he's back on the pills and back on the alcohol. All the progress he made in getting clean, all the work he did to better himself has evaporated. Now, under house arrest, he's got this massive estate to use as his playground, but what's he doing with it? Drinking his days away. This was such a dark ending for Henry's arc this season. It showed that no matter how hard this man tries to achieve something, no matter how much effort he puts into bettering himself, he just can't seem to get over the line. He's trapped in the cycle of attempting greatness, failing spectacularly, and returning to his vices. It's tragic, and it makes you wonder if Henry will ever truly find peace or purpose. Here's something I didn't expect to say at the beginning of the season. By the time those credits rolled with Harper's final scene, my entire opinion of her had changed completely. I started the season not being Harper's biggest fan at all, but this finale showed a side of her that was genuinely admirable. So here's what happened. The exposé piece on Tender caused their stock price to drop by approximately 80% in the market. Harper made a substantial profit from this move, and here's what's remarkable. She split that money 3 ways: $2 million for herself, $2 million for Sweet Pea, and $2 million for Quavana. Equal shares for everyone who contributed to taking down this corrupt empire. But despite this financial victory, Harper wasn't celebrating. There was this profound emptiness that had taken hold of her. Even though she achieved the success she'd been striving for, the fact that Eric wasn't there with her, that she was experiencing this victory alone, was eating away at her mind. This was something they'd started together, a mission they'd undertaken as partners, and she didn't enjoy seeing it through by herself. Now, at this point in the episode, she didn't yet know about a certain video that Yasmin would later show her. But what this emptiness tied into was Harper's realization about the lack of genuine connection she had with people in her life. Success felt hollow when there was no one to truly share it with. The fact that Harper split the money equally is a massive character development moment. There was a part of me that genuinely thought she might toss her partners aside in pursuit of her own success, keeping all the profits for herself. But she didn't. She honored her commitments and valued the people who helped her. That showed real growth and integrity. The dinner scene in Paris was another defining moment for Harper. When she was seated next to those far-right extremists, she didn't stay silent or play along for the sake of networking. She actually stood up to Yasmin in a room full of powerful people and lost all respect for her former friend because Yasmin had deliberately put her in that position. And when Harper extended her hand, offering Yasmin a chance to leave with her, to walk away from that toxic environment together, Yasmin refused. She didn't take Harper's hand. That moment crystallized everything. These two characters are now on completely opposite sides of the moral spectrum. Harper is prepared to help others and maintain her ethics, while Yasmin is willing to exploit and use others for her own advancement. The final scene of the entire season was absolutely perfect. Harper is being interviewed on a plane by Patrick, and he asks her if she ever felt alone when she was so right about Tender while everybody else was so wrong. Harper and Quabina lock eyes and share a smile, and in that moment, you understand. She wasn't truly alone. She accomplished this mission with people who actually cared about her and who she genuinely cared about in return. But here's the genius part. A flight attendant approaches Harper at the very end, just before the screen cuts to black, and asks her a simple question. Are you done with your gin and tonic? Are you done? This felt incredibly symbolic, like it was asking the broader question, is Harper out of the game now, or will she dive back in for more, searching for another target to take down? My honest opinion? Harper isn't leaving the game. Just like Yasmin, she now feels important, necessary, and new. The difference is that while Harper is working for her own gain and advancement, she's not crossing the moral lines and boundaries that Yasmin is willing to cross. Harper found a way to be successful while maintaining her integrity, and that's powerful. I absolutely think we'll see her continuing this work in Season 5, taking on new challenges and exposing more corruption. My thoughts on this incredible finale. I genuinely thought this was a fantastic finale to the season. There were so many subtle, brilliant touches that elevated it beyond a typical season ending. Did you notice that the show's logo didn't appear until the very end of the episode? I absolutely loved that creative choice. It felt like it was marking the end of a chapter, almost like closing a book. There was this poetic quality to holding back that visual marker until the final moments. And we need to talk about that blink and you'll miss it moment. There was a brief shot that seemed to insinuate a certain powerful person is still out there somewhere, in the shadows, trying to find a way to survive and potentially return. I'd love to see this character come back in some capacity, but I honestly don't know if it would be feasible given everything that's happened. Perhaps hearing about them in a news article or learning about their fate indirectly could be an effective way to wrap up that character's story in Season 5. The performances in this episode were absolutely outstanding. Harper, Henry, and Yasmin completely stole every scene they were in. Even Haley delivered an excellent performance, and that's saying something because I genuinely cannot stand Haley as a character. When she stood up to Harper, I was practically yelling at my screen for Harper to put her in her place. The emotional range that all these actors displayed was phenomenal. One moment that really hit me emotionally was when Yasmin told Henry she didn't love him anymore. There's this song playing underneath the scene, No Other Love by Joe Stafford, and it perfectly encapsulated that feeling of emptiness, the mourning of a relationship, the sensation of watching a spark just die. It was genuinely sad watching their marriage disintegrate because we'd seen them happy at the end of episode 2, where it seemed like they were going to build a real future together. Seeing that hope completely shatter was heartbreaking. Another element that impressed me was the focus on Stefan's character. There's this villainous energy radiating from him throughout the episode. I genuinely believe industry is going to lean even heavier into political drama in the next season, with the rise of right-wing politics in the show and extreme far-right elements being introduced. It could paint an incredibly hostile backdrop when the series returns. The musical score deserves special mention too. That piano piece when we saw Tender being audited, it had serious Succession vibes at its core. Paired with those fast whipping motions that were scattered throughout the season, those fast whipping motions, it really achieved a similar feel to that legendary show. Overall, I think this has been a really strong season for industry. I'll be honest, episodes 2 through 5 did feel somewhat isolated from the main narrative, but after that, once the storylines started weaving together again, the tone was perfectly established. The drama escalated beautifully, and the character performances were exceptional across the board. We may never know exactly what happened to a certain powerful character, and honestly, I think that's the beauty of how they handled it. They're going to remain a mystery, a ghost that lives on in the show's mythology, and sometimes that ambiguity is more powerful than definitive answers. Now, here's something exciting. We know for certain that Season 5 has been officially commissioned, and it's going to be the final season of the show. So this is it, the beginning of the end. I'm incredibly excited to see how they're going to wrap up all these storylines when it eventually returns. Will Harper continue her crusade against corruption? Will Yasmin's deal with the devil come back to haunt her? Can Henry ever find redemption and purpose? These are the questions that will keep us theorizing until the next season drops. So there you have it, my complete breakdown of the Industry Season 4 finale. This episode masterfully explored themes of ambition, morality, and the price of success. It showed us that sometimes the people we think we know can transform into someone unrecognizable when given a taste of power. What did you think of this finale? Do you believe Harper made the right choice? Has Yasmin gone too far to ever redeem herself? And what do you think Season 5 will bring? Drop your thoughts and theories in the comments below. I love reading your perspectives and having these discussions. If you enjoyed this breakdown and want to see more deep dives into industry and other incredible shows, make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss any future content. Hit that notification bell so you'll know the moment I drop my next video. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.